Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now the question of the day is, are you tired, sick and tired and frustrated of Serpent consistently busting your chops, bending you over, hashtag no loop, and completely ravaging you from behind season after season in Battlegrounds, war after war in Alliance Wars, and in general? Are you tired of being a victim of Kabam's perfectly balanced design? Design that needed absolutely zero alterations, because after all, Serpent is just as balanced as Silver Sable, or just about. Almost as balanced as Spider-Punk, but definitely nothing to be worried about. Well, in case you do feel like giving your butthole a rest and want to fight back against this sexual predator, Kabam is offering you a weapon. Kabam is offering you a way out. Kabam is indeed offering you a cure to the disease that they themselves created. So let's get to it, shall we? I apologize. There was a wrong clip there for a second, but we're in the right place now. So now we are going to take a look at what Spiral does to a serpent. And this is, by the way, going to be Spiral's deep dive and ability breakdown. But the short and long of it is that Spiral is going to be absolutely taking care of the Serpent issue in just about any matchup it looks at it as well. On most of the metas anyways. And yeah. This did get me kind of like, we obviously need more Serpent counters, there's no question about it, but the entire way Kabam approached about it just felt wrong. It felt extremely sour, where Kabam clearly know what they have done with Serpent and how OP he is, and now they put such a heavy emphasis in their stream about Spiral being the perfect counter to Serpent, and she can be yours only for 99.99 or whatever if you wanted to get this year. So that's Spiral. Obviously, destroying Serpent, she has a ton of mechanics countering Serpent directly, like things like the fact that she can trigger a passive stun, not using her special attack, but a new mechanic where you have to swipe up. The fact that she gets rid of his death immunity by simply blocking or using that said new mechanic. The fact that she is consistently going to be power stealing from Serpent, and if Serpent has power gain active, which he almost always has, her power steal is going to be significantly more potent, and so on and so forth. If your Blades thing is active, you can dodge Serpent's special attacks, ignoring all true abilities. And there we go. That is Serpent. So she's also immune to Falter. I'm sure that, and her ability of stun effects is increased by 100%. Here we go with her blade attacks. And in general, she also seems to be a very, very solid offensive Mystic champion so far. It's obviously too early to jump to conclusions. She doesn't get benefit from Mystic Dispersion directly, but instead she increases durations of her personal raptures, which obviously is still quite helpful. And yeah, it's all about rapture damage and max fervors basically. Her Destroy, dealing with Fury, Precision, Unblockable, Death, Immunity, Immortality, and Indestructible buffs on the opponent. Keep in mind this is buffs, not passive, so if opponent is passively unblockable, then that does absolutely nothing. Replacing them with Rubble, buffs lasting 45 seconds. The thing is, and the more buffs opponent has, the more potent rapture damage she basically can inflict. And there we go. She also can regenerate on block in matches where you do need to block with her Sig ability. And she gains 3 pseudo immunities with Shock, Incinerate, and Poison based on her fervor that she will be gaining by doing non-repeated actions like medium, that will get you fervors, and then drop in heavy and special and block and dash, and all that counts as unique actions. And as long as you do not repeat the same action twice, you gain fervor by doing all of that. So that is Spiral. It's going to nuke that stuff. So let's just get to the abilities themselves. So, strengths and weaknesses, Dancing Blades. Spiral's Dancing Blades are immensely powerful tool for both offensively and defensively. While active, they grant her ability to dodge attacks without the use of Dexterity Mastery. And if that mastery is active, that buff is normally grants to the opponent instead, which is a boon for a Mystic. If Spiral is awakened, the blades also grant her block regeneration. While active, these features make her incredibly hard to pin down for opponents with a lot of block penetration. And all that is before acknowledging that Spiral's ability to launch the blades as a projectile gives her access to attack openings never before seen in the contest. So that is the new mechanic where you just need to kind of swipe up when the blades are active. So you have power gain, buff counter. When you are power stealing the opponent, if they have that buff active, your power gain is going to be 4 times more potent. Her power steal is basically the same as Enchantress has, like 1% on each hit. It doesn't work at level 3 anymore, but if they have power gain, it's 4% all of a sudden. High fervor potency, increasing damage over time effects. And then weaknesses, tempo loss, debuff disruption, and power steal immunity. So she doesn't really have too many weaknesses in general, because obviously debuff disruption, that's kind of like self-explanatory, and power steal immunity, that's not too widespread. In general, she just relies on debuffs. She doesn't rely on buffs at all. She has unique openings and seems fairly capable of overcoming some obstructions as well. So abilities, Deadly Dancer, always active. Spirals, Magical and Martial Mastery grants her immunity to falter, increase her ability accuracy of her stun effects. All Spirals weapon attacks have minus 20% offensive combat power rate and a 1% chance to inflict 947 Rupture debuff over 10 seconds. Pause during Spiral special attacks. When a personal Rupture would be inflicted to the opponent if they are not at max power, Spiral power steals 1% of their max power and increases 3% against opponents who have power gain buffs. For each buff on the opponent's personal Rupture, potency is increased by 10%. So the more buffs, the more potent the Ruptures. Spiral does not benefit from Mystic Dispersion, but gets the duration increased. Yes, that Rupture chance is intentional. It starts low, but by the time Spiral has reached max fervors, it sits closer to 90%. So you mind that power steal occurs when the Rupture would be inflicted, meaning the power steal still happens if opponent's Rupture immune. So martial favor. Each time Spiral performs a light attack, medium attack, heavy attack, dodges back, or blocks an attack, if it is not the same action as the one performed previously, she gains 600% fervor passive for 30 seconds. Fervors are paused during Spiral special attacks and while the opponent has power gain buff. Fervors are also paused for 10 seconds upon reaching the stack limit. When the pause expires, 10 fervors are removed. It does not expire while fervors are paused by another ability. Spiral has 13.58 energy and physical resistance for each fervor she has gained without repeating the action. Fervors expire 100% faster for each one of the past 2 gained consecutively without making contact with the opponent or blocking an attack. So it can't be like dash back block. But there you go. Let's move on further. That before the opponent lands the attack, while blocking, Spiral's mystical weapons have 100% chance to destroy one of each Fury, Precision, Unblockable, Death, Immunity, Immortality, and Indestructible buff on opponent, replacing them with rubble. Special attacks. Beam hits gain 947 attack rating for each unique Rupture on the opponent, increased by 30% of bar power. Spiral summons her Dancing Blades for 10 seconds per bar of power spent, paused during special attacks. And those Dancing Blades against non-science opponents, while Dancing Blades are active, Spiral is not struck by attacks while dodging backwards, and precision she would gain from the Dexterity Mastery are granted to the opponent instead, which is important to increase your Rupture potency. While Spiral is not blocking an attack or stunned, Dancing Blades can be fired as a single projectile. When Spiral is struck by a light attack 2 or swipes up while holding block. So that is going to be a defensive annoyance. You basically hardly ever will be able to do a normal combo against Spiral if she's a defender. I don't think she's going to be the toughest of the defenders, but she will have some defensive utility. And yeah. Need to make sure to do like mediums, or something like that. You cannot do the second light attack. If the opponent struck by Dancing Blades, inflict stun passive for 2 seconds, as well as non-stacking vulnerability debuff for 10 seconds. If the blades strike the opponent or their block, spiral triggers her destroy. That's another way how to destroy Serpent's death immunity. As an attacker, Dancing Blades cannot be fired for 2 seconds after being summoned by Special Attack 1. That's just kind of to avoid borderline infinite loop with Spiral, going ham and spamming level 1s and blades and so on and so forth. Special Attack 3, not that it matters too much, but the attack gains attack rating based on fervors instead of raptures. There you go. Signature ability, Mojo World Stunt Woman. While Dancing Blades are active, Spiral instantly regenerates up to 60% of damage taken from blocks. Neat. For each fervor and Spiral, the durations of incoming shock, incident, and poison debuffs are reduced by 10%. So that is it. Are there any interesting synergies? I don't think this helped Mojo much. Prompts expire slower. She gets regen. That's kind of neat. Longshot first hit or Longshot's heavy attack prevents him from using his special attack 3 until the heavy finishes. This one's actually very good. This I would love to be Longshot's, main ability, as in like in his main kit. Lady Death Strike, precision spiral guns to the opponent can stack up to 2 times. While nanobots regenerate as active, gain immunity to degeneration debuffs. Good. Gain immunity to reverse controls. That's always kind of useful. Rogue's opponent starts the fight with an indefinite. Okay, so you can steal that. While the precision is active, gain 800 block efficiency for Gambit. That's nothing too crazy. Yeah, the synergies, have kind of lost a lot of their shine. Recommend mastery is Despair, Mystic Dispersion, Inequity, Dexterity, obviously. So there you go. That is Spiral. Ultimately, what do I think? I think we're going to see quite a lot of her. Like, being a Serpent Counter in itself is going to give her like a lot of popularity. There's just no question about it. So survivability 3.5, damage 4, ease of use 2.5, utility 4. That kind of makes sense. She has 3 pseudo immunities. She has ways, to get rid of buffs, access to Rapture and a ton of it, and quite a lot of shenanigans happening there. But yeah, obviously going to be a very desirable champion, no question about it. In fact, to the point I would say that players will be disadvantaged if you do not have Spiral. She's going to likely end up being one of those, America Chavez, Onslaught, Serpent, Bullseye, so on type of champions. In this case, being a counter to arguably the worst defender in the game. And the thing is, she's probably going to do just fine in like other cosmic matchups. She might be, somewhat decent, probably worse in more generic class matchups. But as long as you can keep a fairly aggressive tempo, you should be fine. I don't think she can do like Bullseye, for instance, at all. That would be quite horrible for her. But I do think that, she's probably going to be at the very least half decent against some other defenders, especially in Cosmic class, possibly in the Tech class as well, because none of them are Rapture immune. Some of them do, or plenty of them do have buffs. And I do think she's going to do just fine. Obviously, it is too early to jump to any conclusions. And when we have been presented with champions being like perfect counters for something, often that has been overhyped as well. Let's make sure that it's like Patriot, right? Patriot is in theory a perfect photon counter. In practice, he's not even top 5 probably. Patriot absolutely sucks as a champion. Then we can talk about Negasonic, who seemed like an insanely versatile champion. And I still like Negasonic, but I think we can all agree that she has not lived up to the levels of hype and expectations that people had for her, as a Bullseye counter and so on and so forth. She can obviously do all of those fights, but her damage and, her being somewhat squishy, taking some time, all of those are an issue. So once she actually lands and we can playtest is when we're going to draw the conclusions about Spiral, and we're going to see how she tackles the game better. But all that said, I think it is quite clear that Kabam is simply, selling an answer to a problem they refuse to address at the balancing stage. And, you know, this is probably why, because they want more Spiral sales. And then there's going to be another champion. You can call it Twisted or Whirly or whatever you want. And there's going to be another champion that completely destroys Serpent. And I still don't like it. I still don't like champions like Serpent existing, because it's like, unless you have X, Y, or Z to counter it, you're completely screwed. I don't like when the window of dealing with specific defenders is so small. I don't mind champions like Photon, for instance, to a degree, because there's still plenty of champions you can use against Photon, and, you know, some of them will be better than others for sure, but at the very least, it's not an out-all loss unless you get like 1 of 5 champions or 1 of 3 champions in a given meta. So, like, I dislike everything about this. I dislike Serpent existing and the way he's made by disabling your masteries and having BS mechanics and like every defensive ability under the sun. I dislike how I'm not rebalancing him, and I dislike how they are actively pushing Spiral now as the ultimate Serpent counter on all the promotional materials have effectively been surrounding the defensive strength of Serpent and her being the answer to it. It feels extremely filthy to me. That said, obviously, as an active player of the game, I am very much interested in getting Spiral and seeing how well she does. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about